Hello, and thank you for coming back to the Legends of the Game. First of all, I would like to take the opportunity to say thank you to everybody that has been watching. Your feedback and reviews are amazing. I have to tell you that I have a treat for myself today, and I will share her with you. This is Sue Enquist, everybody. And if you don't know Sue, you're going to get to know her really fast today. Sue, you're amazing. Thank you so much for being on my show today.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Oh, I'm so excited about what we're going to talk about. And the first things that I always like to talk about is kind of what you did for softball. And the thing that is, I mean, you're softball royalty. I'm going to say that out loud. I know that you wore the jersey number 6, but you're really number 1. You were the first All American for UCLA. You were on the first national championship team for UCLA, the first Hall of Famer for UCLA. How did you do that?
Well, first, that just tells all our listeners is wow, she's super old.
No,
I
I
think
don't think
probably
so.
the most important thing I would want people to know about that is I lived a really ordinary life. I really did. But I had extraordinary people around me throughout my life that afforded me this opportunity to get exposure. I'm a beneficiary of Title IX, which we're so fortunate in this country to
Yeah.
live in a place where there's a federal law that protects equal access for boys and girls to education and sport. And I played boys baseball when Title IX was enacted. That actually got me the exposure, ironically, to UCLA because it was quite a stir. Back in the day, it wasn't popular to ruffle feathers in the sport industry. So that's actually how I got to UCLA. A lot of people don't know this, I was actually set to go to Cal Poly San Luis Obispo to be a Bronco. And my sister went to school there, and academically, I loved their layout, and they had great sport. And then when UCLA came knocking, I went there and realized this is a brand new program. We wore the men's track team practice T-shirts as game uniforms.
Oh,
And
stop it.
yeah, and so when we had Bob Chafee was my coach my freshman year, and we're just in an environment where people were valued over things, and the fact that we didn't have budgets, we didn't have cars to travel, we didn't have per diem. It didn't matter. It was really about the people, the leaders on the team, and everybody was just held to a really high standard. And that was our humble beginnings. And then when Sharon came in my sophomore to senior year, she brought in a high expectation. So the foundation was, work hard and stay positive. And then Sharon came in and said, you're capable of doing this. And she was unwavering, and everyone bought in. And in 3 short years, we went to postseason unranked, only team to wear shorts because we didn't have the budget for pants,
Mhm.
and not a team scored a run off of us, and we never looked back.
So, I mean, this is UCLA we're talking about.
Yes.
UCLA Bruins had to wear track T-shirts for game uniforms.
Yes.
Look at how, I mean, look at how different, obviously, UCLA is the royalty of softball. That's a
Well, I
humble
think,
beginning.
yeah, and I think really the moral of the story is to all those moms and dads and daughters and coaches that are out there that are on the team that's chasing, that's
Right.
on the team that's in the bottom of the conference, on that team that just started out. It really is about you as student athletes to pull together and be accountable and just give 100% of what you have. And you never know what can happen. And I have the evidence of what potentially could happen. And then once you create momentum, then it's just all about discipline and staying focused on what you need to do as a team.
Oh, what a message right there, Sue. I mean, that's the price of the ticket right there. We could probably stop right now. That was the best one. You went from Hall of Fame player to Hall of Fame coach. How did you how would you say you evolved as a coach?
Well, first of all, I never planned on getting into coaching. My generation is, it's very common that coaching fell in our lap. Right now, my current work at UCLA, we're trying to change that. We want to build an industry that's actually recruiting women to get into coaching. But I was all set to go to graduate school in respiratory therapy. I wanted to work in an emergency room. I love the idea of the intensity and the pressure and what was at stake. And my coach at the time, Sharon Backus, said, would you just help out before you walk in graduation? So it was my 5th year, 10 weeks left until I graduate. My eligibility was finished. And I said, sure, I'll help you coach. I'm not going to get into coaching.
Uh,
And I knew the first 2 weeks, I knew when I started doing it,
you fell in
I
love.
knew I wanted to do that. I called my parents, and, I'm a daughter of a military father and 2-time Purple Heart. He stormed the beaches of Normandy. So he was that guy. And then my mom was like, oh, that's wonderful. She was the positive one that gave me my free spirit. My dad's like, who's going to pay the bills? Right. Because there was no money in coaching. And my dad says, do what makes you happy, but you got to pay the bills, And I never looked back. I worked 3 jobs for 11 years to make ends meet, but I never felt like I had a job once I started my career.
So I would like to know, because softball as a coach, I coached for 25 years. There are a lot of ups and downs. Tell me how you dealt with some of those downs.
Well, I think one of the most important things you can really have peace of mind as a leader once you let go of the fact that you're not the center of the wheel. And coaches get out early because they burn out because they're tired of carrying the load.
Right.
I think the sooner you realize you're a facilitator, you are the person almost like the host of the best 2 hours of the day. And that's how you have to look at coaching is I have got to be prepared, create these conditions where it will be the hardest, most demanding, but it's got to be the most enjoyable 2 hours of their day. And if we're not doing that, my big mentor throughout my coaching career was Coach Wooden, and he constantly said that once you can let go of your ego and become a servant to the game and create the conditions for your student athletes, then this job will never be a job. And I really tried to do that. I wasn't great at it in the beginning of my sole head coaching career. I was such a cluster in so many ways because I was so competitive. And Coach Wooden told me, he said, Sue, you're going to be that person that there are going to be days you have to protect the kids from yourself. How well said, right? That really stuck with me, is to do a gut check before you get to the park. Is this a day I have to protect the kids from myself so I can make it the best 2 hours of their day? It's not about me.
Sue, again, that's the price of the ticket right there. I am a huge John Wooden fan and have had the pleasure of speaking to his grandson.
Which one?
You asked me that, and I'm not going to know the name. That's
Craig?
probably
Craig?
the one in charge of his foundation.
Yeah. Well, Craig's on charge, but I think he's the one that does a lot of work in Lynn Guerin on the wooden course side. Yep. Great
What
people.
an opportunity you had to hang out with John Wooden. All the accolades that we can talk about with you, because you're a 6-time Hall of Famer. You played for the Breakettes. So how many All-Americans can we say that you had?
I think I played for the Breakettes 6 years, I think. And I think I was an All-American half of them, 3 times maybe. And then you only got to be All-American in college if you made it to the World Series. So the year I went to the World Series, I was an All-American there.
Yeah, that's awesome. What would be your favorite memory, though?
Oh, I think a lot of people ask that, and how can there be, right?
Right.
I do have no problem saying that the first championships for the Briquettes and the first championship for the Bruins, they do stand alone as a player. Both of them, we were the underdog. The Briquettes were completely decimated because all those players, all those iconic players went pro in Meriden, Connecticut. and to play for the Meriden, Connecticut Falcons. Just so everybody knows, there was a pro league in the 70s. But to be able to do what John Stratton, who was the coach at the time, he put together a bunch of baby softball players and built a structure around very similar to what I knew at UCLA, because Sharon was a breakhead. And on top of that, our great leader, Ralph Raymond, had just had a heart attack.
Oh,
And so we
wow.
played without our head coach. Our assistant coach carried us through the summer, and we never even skipped a beat, won the title. And I think we surprised a lot of people because we were an extremely young team. And then the same story as I mentioned earlier about our collegiate team, that when you have great expectations, you have great clarity and accountability, and you have people that have character, that do what they say and say what they do, you can do some great things no matter what the rankings say.
And I'm big about what you learn in softball, sports in general, is what you can do in life.
Yeah, I mean, I think mine's a little nuanced. I think we have a tendency to say, you know, sports teaches you great life lessons, and it's really how we react to the events that teaches us. And I can't tell you how important it is for our youth coaches that are those moms and dads. They raise their hand and say, I'll help and volunteer. You actually have the most important job if you're teaching rec ball, because you're her first impression to sport,
That's right.
and you don't get a second impression. And so that's why I love working with Little League. They're going to be doing some great stuff with Little League softball, and a huge responsibility for an association like that to try to make that first impression an important one. Our only goal when they start is to come back. So if we could just pump the brakes on the wins and the most valuable player and all that kind of stuff, and really work on making that 45-minute practice the fun zone, so they come back that next day and that next year.
Absolutely, Sue. 1000%. I am not going to ask you to name your favorite player that you played with, but I'd like to know some of the names that you played with. Joan Joyce, Margie Wright. Love Margie.
Yeah, I never, Joni was on the team that left to go pro. That's why that team got decimated. So I got the opportunity to try out for the Cats through my coach, Sharon Backus, who had turned pro. So they were recruiting across the country. And that's how I had the opportunity to all those great players. My association with Margie Wright was as a competitor, as coaches, and then as colleagues on the national team. We were a part of the original staff of 8 to develop our Olympic program back in 1993 through 96 to prepare the team for the inaugural. So, you know, every decade had unbelievable leaders that set the tone and sustained the legacy of the program, so the program always be bigger than any one player. And our program, we put so much value in third out of the dugout as a pinch runner. A lot of people don't know. She was a specialist on our team that was a huge leader. You ask Stacy Newman who Karen Hoshizaki was, and she'll tell you. So for us, I couldn't sit here and just tell you our 15 Olympians, right? Of course. But I'm equally proud of the Amanda Simpsons and the Karen Hoshizakis and people that don't have the big gold medal around their neck, but they live a gold medal lifestyle. And it was our character as a program that sustained, we were in the 70s, 80s, 90s. Now we're going into the second decade, and here we sit as defending champions. The program is a defending champion. And so that is about the people, not really the players. And to pull it back even deeper, people say, what was the difference? I'll tell you what Sharon Backus taught me. She used to always say, Susie, raise your children, and it's going to be game changing for us. everyone knows UCLA needs to get the big hitter pitcher, but as sport got popular, a lot of middle infield corners and batteries. And for us, the tiebreaker was, who are the adults that raise these student athletes? That was the tiebreaker for us. We were good at recruiting amazing families.
Well, I think that's a great message too. One of the questions I have for later in the program is about that. I want to drift away from softball. I will come back to it. But the one thing that you are unique in my view is that you're an avid surfer. I am terrified of water and the ocean, much less in, the ocean. How do you get in? You come back?
Here I am, I lost you.
Yeah, I was talking about how you're an avid surfer.
Yes. Oh my gosh, that's my jam. I've been a surfer long before I was ever a diamond sport person. And I say diamond sport because I got my start in baseball, but I grew up in San Clemente. I live in the house I grew up in, and it's a little sleepy surfing town. And man, I was able to transfer a lot of skills that I learned in the ocean to the diamond sports, and surf every day that I'm in town. And obviously during COVID, I've been able to do some good surfing. So been very fortunate.
Well, I'm terrified of water, so good for you. I won't join you.
Yeah.
Have you ever had a scary moment in the water?
Sure. I've taken some hits, but not nothing that, I mean, only once in my, I've been surfing for 52 years.
Oh my God.
And I've only had to be in the hospital once.
Why?
Actually just kicked out of a wave, kind of went off the lip of the wave, and the board came back and flipped over, and the fin, I've got a little bit of a scar. The fin came across my face and through my eye, but didn't get my eye, just got my cheek, and had to get a handful of stitches, more than a handful, but yeah, it worked out. That's not a bad record. Think about softball. Think about,
Yeah.
right? Think about all the times where we've had to put our student athletes through emergency. So I live a charmed life. I live a charmed life.
My first day as a coach, I took a bat to the face, broke my nose, laid over here. So
Yeah.
I'll take that. I won't do the ocean though.
Breaking your nose is, I broke my nose. This is another thing a lot of people do. I played UCLA rugby. Also, I played on the rugby team at UCLA. Yeah. Well, I weighed 175. Skip a meal, right? I'd love to say, oh yeah, I was a solid 175, but I wasn't. But playing rugby, that was one of the most enjoyable things I ever did. And but I took a hit to the face, broke my nose. So I know your pain. I feel your pain.
Yeah, that rugby is a tough one though, right?
Yep, it is tough sport.
So I don't know the position names, but were you the one that runs around and
I was actually a fullback, but I played both sides. So I'd slot in to the line, which was great. And then I'd sit back and was last line of defense. So I loved it. 175, I was able to create enough havoc, I think. And just great people that I played with, and great staff, and just really great memories of playing rugby. And it was a little tricky because, back in the day, you could do multiple sports. So college was a blast when you were going to school in the 70s as a student athlete, because I competed on the surf team, UCLA surf team. I competed on the UCLA rugby team, played UCLA softball, and then we all played intramural sports. So we played on the inner tube water polo team, the flag football team. It was really fun. And
yeah, you can't.
I get sad that the student athletes today, it's gotten so serious, right? We got to bring back the joy and the free spirit of being an athlete, so they can really enjoy those couple hours a day.
Oh wow! So you're amazing. I knew this was going to be a great, a great hour. I knew that. So you retired from coaching and you've taken on your own business. I mean, you're still a coach. So you retired from UCLA, you're taking on your own business. And I was reading about it, and your slogan is prepare, love, and honor. And you go on to say something to the effect of if you love what you do, then you should be able to do these three words. Will
Yeah,
you
I mean,
elaborate
I think,
on that?
yeah, I think for me, those are my personal pillars that I embed into my consulting business. Bruin Enterprises is a leadership consulting business strategies company. And, to prepare, love, and honor simply means this: we cannot do anything in life well if we don't put the time in to prepare to prepare. And once you get into your big company and you've got to deliver, or your big game, if we don't rely on loving it on its best days and its worst days, we won't be that great of a performer, and we won't be that great of a leader. I think people are impacted by leaders that can see the light of day when it's dark. Those are the ones that can stain your brain, that can look you in the eye and say, hey, you know what? I know we're in the bottom of the seventh. I understand we've got one outlet, but you know what? We need one pitch. And all you have to do is keep an eye on your 17 inches, let that ball come in, trust your eyes, let your body take over. And coaches, I think, that do that end up impacting. And then last, the honor part has to do with not just respect the people that you're standing on their shoulders, but honoring the game means the game is always first. And so at UCLA, our standards were what the game is asking. Don't shoot the messenger. I'm just the messenger. So honoring the game means the game will show up for you every day. It's the only thing you can count on, is that 60 feet and turn left. I said that all the time, is the game doesn't care. The game doesn't care that you were a piece of crap yesterday. Game didn't care that you went 0 for the weekend. Game doesn't care if you're black, brown, white, doesn't care where you live. And if we can get more people to have that mantra, to be humbled by the fact that you have an opportunity to play such a great sport. I love this sport. And so those three areas or pillars were my personal values that I tried to embed into sport. But the other passion and why I retired was to develop the company called One Softball.
Right.
And
Good segue.
that was why I retired. People are like, why did you retire when you did? I mean, you had all those recruits and you guys were winning. And I don't know. I don't like the idea that you're supposed to have your team fall apart, get bad, and then get kicked out the door. I knew I never wanted to do that. I knew I always wanted to sprint out the door. And I became more curious about what happens if you took a college coach and they just started trying to help the people that are coming first in. And so the premise was gather our community of people that support what we're doing and provide free content to moms, dads, coaches, and daughters. And so One Softball it's fully funded by me, and it's my give back to the sport. So we have 1,100 2-minute videos. We have world champions and national champions and coaches of the year, but more importantly, we're storytelling about why these people love the game and how they made it to the top, and more importantly, how they stayed on top.
Well, I know I share them a lot. I watch them a lot because they're motivating for me.
Nice. I
They're
love hearing
motivating
that.
for me. They take me back to a place because, like when you go back to being the fullback on the rugby team, you had to get to a certain place in your head, didn't you? You
For
know,
sure.
you had to get there.
For
And
sure.
and that's what the One Softball does for me. It takes me to that place that I needed to, that I needed to be. What are your goals with One Softball? How far do you want it to go?
I just want, I would die a happy woman if people could just have One Softball at the tip of their tongue as a quick answer. So here's the new mom, and she's got her 8-year-old there, and she's starting to hear all this noise about recruiting, and she's getting anxious, and she turns to her fellow benchmate on the bleachers, and she's like, what's going on there? Everyone's talking about, I need to go play on this travel plan. My goal would be that the mom will go, oh, go to One Softball. just start watching those videos. They'll talk to you about the race and the path to college, because you're going to get a coach's insight from college that's going to say, stop the madness. And I would love for One Softball to allow our collective softball families to breathe easier. That stayed in my brain when I put my original team together. Chris Herman, who is the head coach at Williams College, great Hall of Fame coach, great influencer to me. And I told her about this vision, and she says, what I'm sensing is you're going to try to have this crazy community of softball breathe easier. And
That'd be nice.
it was like a light bulb. It stuck with me to this day. And I have been, the first 3 years was doing the research. I didn't know what the pain points were. So I traversed the country and interviewed I got 25,000 answers on what's your problem, mom? What's your problem, dad? What's your problem, coach? What's your problem, student athlete? And so I became educated on what those problems were. Then I went to all my wonderful colleagues and I said, will you answer these? And so I have all the people on there, the Jenny Finches and the Mike Candreas and the Patty Gassos, Tim Wallens, the Kelly Inoways, all of them said, sure, I'll volunteer my time and give you my insight. And so all of those interviews, and you're wondering, gosh, how do you get Lisa Fernandez and Jenny Finch and, all these great icons? They did it for free because they love this game. So One Softball's not in any one association's back pocket. We remain Switzerland. Our goal is to be a trusted voice for the softball community and an asset when you feel lost. And we're going to be doing some really neat things regarding helping the student athlete I would love for One Softball to be like a big sister for our young girls coming up, because they need great role models, and we need to do a better job of highlighting these great players that are now running businesses. And so One Softball is going to try and create like a directory, right? Wouldn't it be great if you had a directory of where are all these great role models? What are they doing? Do they have businesses? Is it businesses that I'm interested in as a softball family? So we're going to try and go ahead and do that next. So we have storytelling, we have curriculum, but we would love to create an environment where there's mentorship as well.
That's amazing, Sue. And when this COVID goes away, I'm going to bring you to St. Louis. So you just mentioned something really important, and I want to touch on recruiting. Every week I have an athlete from today talk. I want to ask you a question, and her name is Tegan Neese, and she's from the Heartland Havoc in Quad Cities, Illinois. What advice would you give me? Because I want to get noticed by college coaches. What advice would you give her on that?
Oh, well, first of all, Tegan, thank you for taking the time, and good luck this year. And remember, you already are great in Plan B because you're a softball player. So don't let COVID make you crazy. Just be great in Plan B. The number one thing we need to do to every single prospect and their family is to flip the script from how do I get noticed to what steps do I have to take to be proactive and let that and get right in front of that coach. So many times we have the families are sitting back waiting for their travel ball coach to get them in front of coaches. It doesn't work that way. It's not about getting at the right tournament right away. You know what it's about? It's about you and your family sitting down academically, saying, where am I projected academically? What kind of student am I? What type of school, big, small? Do I want a football school or not? Where do I want to live? Do I need to be close to home? You must go through all the criteria that fits you first. Then go and see what schools match your criteria. So you remain in the driver's seat, and you now live in the technology generation. So take advantage of it. Go to, there are recruit education companies all over the country. And I always say to everybody, don't spend a dime on a recruiting service until you're in 911. So if you're a junior in high school and you don't have any nibbles on your skill set yet, you may have to invest in a trusted source. Everybody knows that I have benefited greatly from the curriculum that Next Collegiate Sport Athlete that provided us, NCSA, trusted company, been in the industry for decades. Just go to a site like there, you can go and type in all the criteria that is important to you so you can get an idea of what schools would fit before we even talk about your softball skills. And no one is telling our softball families that. So any mom or dad, if you have a 7th and 8th, the 9th and 10th grader, I'm going to ask you every week to dedicate 45 minutes towards the researching on the academic side and where the school is, so you can go from what I call a 50-10-3 rule. Go online, we've got over 1,400 colleges. And remember, over 80% of our colleges have resources and scholarship in D2 and below. D2, D3, NAIA, community college. These are great assets to dip into, but no one's taking the time to find out about them. So go ahead and grab those colleges, pare it down to 50. Out of those 50, pick your top 10. And then hopefully out of those top 10, you get 1, 2, or 3 of them that may be interested in offering you scholarship. And I challenge the parents to start saving as though you're not getting a scholarship.
Right.
As though you're not getting a scholarship. And you're not in a race. I think this is another misconception. I'm in a race. No, you need to go do the research. Get in that race first. And then will be way too much responsibility on the travel coach. And that's not fair to the travel coach.
Yeah, you're exactly right. But everybody wants to play for the UCLA's, Patty Gassos at Oklahoma. Talk about
Yeah, of course, but Chris, of course. And I want to win the lotto. Like, I want America snap out of it.
Oh, I love you.
Yes. I would want to be a millionaire and give all my money to all the underserved, underrepresented kids in the country. So have the dream, have the UCLA, have the Arizona, have the Stanford, have the dream, but do the homework.
Right.
So if you don't win the lotto, as a parent, you're not scrambling and schlepping your kid 4 miles or 400 miles up the coast because you think being on a certain team with a travel coach fair. That's not the travel coach's job. His job is to create great things for you to develop and experience to compete. I really, really want the parents to have a wake-up call to do work yourself regarding academics and what's a great fit first before you say we're going to spend all this money on tournaments. And I always say, go ahead, spend your money on the tournaments. Go ahead. I just want you to use the dollar for dollar. If I'm going to spend $1 on a hitting instructor, $1 on a defense instructor, $1 on a tournament, I want you to spend $1 on your science tutor, $1 on your math tutor. So when this is all said and done, you have the pick of all schools. Imagine if you were a good softball player, Stanford calls and like, you know what? You're a nice player, but we can't get you into school.
Right.
So if you're in 7th or 8th grade, I'm challenging you right now, $1 for $1 as a parent. Think about that. How much money am I spending? How much money did we spend last year on tournaments? Oh, we spent like $12,000. Not sure that was really a smart idea.
Right.
Maybe my daughter would do better staying local, developing her skills, and us doing our own plan. Because for mom and dad, nobody knows your daughter better than you do. No one knows the fit better than you do. And I know parents are going to say, Sue, how do I know the fit? My goodness, people, we have the internet. You can find everything out about Kelly Inouye Perez at UCLA through the internet. You can go on virtual tours. You can go on everybody's YouTube. You will know the coaches that feel like a good fit. And when it comes to your dream schools, your top 50 schools, they're all on television. So I really have a tendency, and I know people on my phone blows up. They're like, Sue, you're way too hard on the parents. No, I want to head snap the parents and say, you're in control of this.
That's
Like I want the parents
right on.
to go, yes, we are in control of this. Like the parents need to say, yes, we are the ones that need to ask the smart questions.
That's
Can
right.
you tell me, hitting instructor, can you tell me how you're going to measure whether my kid's getting better? Oh, you're just going to hit in the cage and they're going to do 30 rounds of hitting every day. And in 6 months, she's going to be better. How do I know that? So parents, this is a great time to be a parent because you can ask those smart questions of your tutor, of your trainer, of your travel ball coach. Ask lots of questions. Nobody deserves to know more about your kid than you do. All right, I'm done. I'm off my soapbox.
That was, I mean, I have, that is like, you gave me goosebumps.
I just want to empower. See, our system's broken, right? The people that have all the answers are the college coaches,
Right.
but the rules
Don't let them.
preclude them from being able to answer everything because of the content. We're trying to protect the prospect.
Right.
And then what happens is a lot of this load falls on the travel coach. That's super unfair. These people aren't prepared to talk about the difference between Division I and Division II recruiting rules.
Right.
So you're going to ask that dad that raised his hand 2 years ago in 12 and under. He's now coaching 16 and under. You're going to ask him or her to break down the rules of NC2A. Super unfair. So to the parents, don't be lazy. Be aggressive, be proactive, prepare in this, and grab your online NC2A student athlete guide. It will answer a lot for
Oh
you.
my gosh, this is amazing. I think I'm going to drift you to Lisa Fernandez. So, I mean, I know Lisa well, and I just had her on the show, and her struggle was fear of disappointing people.
Yep.
And how did you coach her?
Well, you can't talk about Lisa Fernandez without talking about her mom and dad first.
Yes.
She's a perfect example of recruiting somebody. Now, when Lisa was in high school, top recruit in the country, everybody knew wherever she went, that program was going to go to a completely different level. Now, what's interesting, everyone knows Lisa as this unbelievable athlete, played both sides of the ball, but they predominantly know her as a pitcher. When she first came into our program, she was really relegated to third base because we had such great pitching. But what I would love everybody to know about Lisa Fernandez is the people that aren't Lisa Fernandez fans don't really know her.
Right.
And when you have somebody, she, in my opinion, when you see the documentary on Michael Jordan, she has a lot of his traits around this unwavering commitment to excellence and zero tolerance for anybody else that is working less than their best. And you say to yourself, why is she so driven like that? And when you peel all her sides down, she never wanted to let her teammates down, her coaches, and her family. She carried that so deep in her heart. And boy, did we benefit, because she is the hardest working Bruin that I ever coached.
But you knew how to push her buttons, though. You knew how to talk
You
to
didn't
her.
need to push. You didn't need. Nope. You didn't have to push any of Lisa Fernandez's buttons. Sharon Backus was, she got here, but Sharon Backus was, people said, oh, look at what you developed. Lisa Fernandez, she came that way. All we had to do is make sure we didn't screw it up. Lisa Fernandez, her DNA, the way she was raised, her mom and dad had such standards, her family, her sister, all of them, a tight-knit group that came everywhere. And Lisa is a product of what can happen when you have an equal value on work ethic and not just trying to win, not putting so much energy in winning, but putting it in to the preparation. I mean, our practices would be anywhere from 2 to 4 hours long, and she was always the first one there and the last one to leave.
I don't know.
I mean, this is a great story. A lot of people don't know this story. When Lisa went on to her career, went on, go over to play in Japan, and Japan is so, they're brilliant over there, and it didn't take them long to pick her pitches. And she'd come back and she'd say, you know what, they picked my curveball, and I'm like, ooh, what's going on? What am I going to do? And she's like, oh, just going to just train. I'll just create a new grip. Like, that's Lisa Fernandez.
Yeah.
There's always a solution. And for those young players, those dads that are coaching their daughters, there's always a solution when you believe in your work ethic, like Lisa did. So maybe you can all have a little piece of Lisa, that no matter what happens, she always had an answer. And you saw us as a team benefit, and you saw us as a country benefit when Lisa Fernandez was on that Olympic team.
Well, she gives you a lot of credit. That's why I asked the question, because I had her on the other day. She gives
I
you
appreciate that, but I just need to tell you, those that know her, it's just in their DNA.
right.
It's just in their
It's something
DNA.
you can't teach, right?
Yeah.
Right. But then I'm going to talk about Bertha Ticky, because a lot of people say Bertha and Lisa were similar, and you have had the opportunity to play against Bertha or with Bertha.
Well, no, I only, when you say Bertha Ticky, I just smile, because I can't claim I knew Bertha, the competitor, because I came into her life because I was a breakette. She was
Right.
a breakette. So when we would have like Legends Day, Alumni Day, all of these icons would come. It was like, I can remember this like it was yesterday. It was like Christmas on Saturday, because they'd be coming. What I remember about Bertha Ticky, and everyone will equate Bertha with certain people, I just remember uber self-efficacy, like such a peace of mind that I know how to get it done. That if you could have bottled her poise and her grace, how generous she was with her time with us. That's what I remember about Bertha. I can't break down bottom of the seventh. I remember Bertha shutting them down. It was, oh, Bertha Ticky, man, nothing scared her. She had so much poise and grace, and was just so generous, and was so, when you meet somebody that's in a lofty place, they either make you feel two ways, like you belong, or you're a distraction and a pain in the neck. And I'll never forget how great Bertha Ticky, Sis King, there's another great legend, how they made us feel. And that's really important when you think about being a good teammate. Think about how you're going to make people feel each and every day as a
That's what
teammate.
they're going to remember.
Yep.
Yeah. I want to honor Bertha, and I'm still trying to develop a way to do so. But any story that you have about Bertha, please send my way. Uh, One of my last questions, Sue, and I'm I'm very upset about this actually, and we talked about this. Why don't we know who Sue Enquist is? Why don't we know who Lisa Fernandez is? Why do we know who Babe Ruth is? And Joan Joyce made a very good point. Women need to support women.
Yeah, it's on the surface, yes, but it's really, we're actually a very traditional story around systemic discrimination, not necessarily because we have bad people in the system.
Right?
We have a bad system.
That's
And
right.
so until when you understand that these are all businesses that are driven by revenue, and they have no history to be able to be making revenue, it's very difficult for people to say, we're going to go ahead and for 2 years, we're going to risk something. We're going to start putting women on TV. We're going to start selling apparel, and we're going to take a hit for 2, 4, 5 years before it starts to ascend. Because of that, our sport, this sport has struggled from a professional standpoint. We have turned on and off professional leagues since the 70s.
Yeah.
People don't realize this. It wasn't early 2000, it was the 70s. Billie Jean King helped start the pro league in the 70s. I'm going to say it again. Billie Jean King is the one that gets the credit for starting the pro league. And because systemically, we don't have a system that allows us an opportunity for a liftoff, we start and stop. And on this point of, name recognition and apparel. I do believe we're eventually going to get there. It may look different. Is it going to be through Athletes Unlimited? If you don't know about Athletes Unlimited, look it up. This is a new way that we're going to try to engage our student athletes, their parents, our softball fans, and it's through digital engagement. And I loved it. Athletes Unlimited, they're trying to individualize the players for name recognition. There's points for everything you do. The games are competitive. The talent is off the chart. So let's hope that Athletes Unlimited, they're going to be in it for the long haul. They don't disappear in 3 years and say, wow, we didn't make any money. We've got to be able to engage for a longer period of time, but business is business. And I understand that. So it makes me sad.
Right.
People say, oh, the NGB, they're not the, it's the system. And so how do you unmantle, break it down and build it back up? I think it's going to take a real concerted effort. So we have lots of, Chris, we're in a renaissance, right? We have performance metrics now coming into our sport. We have partnerships we've never seen before. PGF has now partnered with Perfect Game, and they're going to be building a whole platform. We now have the Alliance that's going to try to answer the call that we've had issues with the sport in the last 10 years. And then we have USA Softball that's trying to get behind these partnerships as well. So I get excited. I'm always hopeful, thinking that we can make it better. So that young girl playing today, she's growing up in an age where she has a true bona fide opportunity to play in college. And look at our collegiate game. It's blowing up. And that is hugely to do with ESPN. ESPN doesn't get enough credit for pulling the trigger, hanging on during the lean years. They hung on when the numbers weren't there. People don't know this. Wow, ESPN, it's a no-brainer. Softball's so big. It didn't start big. It started small. ESPN was losing its shirt for years and years and years, and they stuck to it. And there's some key people behind ESPN that deserve a lot of credit, like Carol Stiff, who stepped up in their executive group and said, softball's onto something. I think we need to really capture it. And so Meg Aronowitz, who is the engine behind ESPN today, deserves a lot of credit. What about Michelle Smith, the voice of the World Series, and Beth Mowins and Jess Mendoza? These people deserve credit for sticking with this before it was popular.
Right.
Who was talking about it back in the mid 80s? Nobody. We were on a tape delay at 1 a.m. in the morning. I always say the drunks and the cab drivers got to see softball. And then once it went live, it got huge. And we got fans, baseball fans came over and said, man, the game is fast. I love this. And now we have a cross section of fans in this great game. So I don't know, as much as we can get sad about the things that aren't good, there's so much good stuff to hang on to. So I get excited when you have groups getting together. You've got Jamie Loprize from USSSA. I mean, Jamie Loprize from Texas A&M, shout out to the Aggies because she's an Aggie. She's one of the most trusted people in our sport, is trying to lead this new group to be able to do it better than before. So when you got people like Jamie Loprize, who is just really trusted, I mean, she's a PhD. A lot of people don't even know that. They're like, oh, Jamie, she played softball. She's legit. She's a PhD. Like, she knows her stuff. And then at the same time, you've got one of the most successful baseball models in Perfect Game that literally showed America how we individualize and the family takes control of their student athlete's destiny, not the team, not the travel ball coach, but the individual family goes on a path. So I get excited about what PGF is going to be doing with Perfect Game. I mean, it's going to be a win-win, I hope. I don't know. We'll have to check in a couple of years and see where we are.
Yes, we will. You're amazing, but I will tell you, I still want the kids today to know who you are.
Well, all I want today is for the kids of today to say, I want to play tomorrow. I want to play next season. What I want for the kids today is start when you're in 8 and under and have a blast until you're 35 and under. That's what I want. The role models are great. Don't get me wrong, but I just want us to create conditions for the girls today to have a blast. Picture the world they live in, right? They're tied to this burden of social media. You know, we interviewed a bunch of kids and they said, gosh, I would love to just have a blackout period that my team would do, so I didn't have to be tied to my phone. we've got to, as coaches, we have to understand that burden that they carry. And our job is to create those 2 hours as an escape. And so we can learn to have them come together and build them up, because they're in a world where the world is sick. Our country is angry. The girl is dealing with serious performance anxiety, even mental health. If you have mental health issues, you are not weak sauce. Trust me, I've coached the best in the world, and we dealt with that and we managed it. So you look at your anxiety like it's an Achilles heel. It's there, you can manage it, but you can still become the best version of yourself. And so that's the work that we also need to do, is what are we doing to create the conditions for when she leaves after those 2 hours? She's out of breath. We worked her hard, but she also has a hop in her step, and she knows that she can take on the world because, like I said, we're in a renaissance. We're in a point now where we're saying, hey, wait a minute. I'm a white girl. I'm a white girl of privilege. What am I doing with my Black sisters? Don't get uncomfortable, white mom and dad, white coach. Don't get uncomfortable. Be the one that opens the doors. Bring everybody in. Bring in our Black girls, our Indigenous girls, our people of color. Bring them in. Hear their story, because this generation wants everyone to have their story be told. And we don't have to politicize it. I'm a daughter of a military father. I love this country on its best days and its worst days. I love this country, but I also know we have work to do. And I also know what inequity looks like. I lived it. So we can be both, and let's make it a humanitarian issue. So coach, don't get uncomfortable. Just create the conditions. You guys, let's have a talk. Let's have a circle of confidence talk. Let's talk in confidence right now about what we love, what we hate, and not pick sides, but just listen to each other, learn a little bit about each other, and then lift each other up. Softball can actually bring people together more than it can divide us. I believe that. It doesn't have to be political. Whether you want guns, you don't want guns, whatever it is, just make it a humanitarian issue, and I think we can do some great stuff.
Sue, you're breathtaking. I mean, thank you so much for your time.
You
I
bet.
am honored that you came here, and I am so happy that people are going to know who you are. And I'm committed to promote One Softball. I absolutely love your goal for that.
Well, thanks, Chris. And I want to thank you for all your work and all the stuff that you're doing with your company. And I just always want every mom and dad out there, just know that Sue Enquist is in your back pocket. You need to get a hold of me. Just reach out to Sue at onesoftball.com. I'm there for you. One is spelled out, easy peasy. Let's just do it together. Love the game on its best and its worst days.